Hello guys, so I'm going to start like always just showing you my contact information. I have received a few comments about the videos, about the games, about some questions. Unfortunately, some of them are for things that would take me quite some time to explain, but well, I'll try to get to them, and I'll try to do my best to give a cool content for you to check. And well, I don't know, right now you see that I have a new intro which I kind of like. So before I get too crazy, let's get to this is one of the projects that I was working on, so let's get to this. um, so this is the version of the tower defense project that we were working on for the last video. Well, from a couple of videos ago, like I translated some of the things that we did in some of the other videos to create the same tutorial in Spanish. I hope that, well, someone enjoys it. And in the meantime, we're going to go back here. I'm going to show you exactly what we had in the last video in case that you missed it. Of course, you are welcome to check all the videos. I'm beginning to upload them in my channel in YouTube. So far, of course, this is my Twitch. And well, if you missed one of the previous videos, just check them there, so we don't have to go back so much every single time that we have a new video. So what we were doing here was tower defense, and we cannot check the basics. You can tell that it is still a short game, and I was using two main behaviors. One is the pathfinding for the enemies, the other one is the turret for the towers that we have here, and so far it works like this. So we have a turret that is able to detect the enemies that are these gray triangles, and that they are able to go all the way to this goal that we have here, and they are also avoiding, well, going around these solids, these blue solids that we have here. And whenever I just click, I can add a new tower, and that's going to hopefully destroy all the enemies, and of course I can go for an overkill. In the previous video, I had to point that I made a mistake the first time in the way that I was adding the enemies. So let's go back to that. And it was this way. The seeker. So well, I call them the seeker. I could call them creeps. I guess that I was just thinking about the example of the pathfinder. So a seeker of a path. So I guess in a future version I'll just rename them to creeps. So the thing is that here, instead of using add turret to target, I was using acquire target, but this one only works for one object, one instance of an object. When you want to add a group of seekers or creeps or enemies, you have to use this one that is add to, object to target. The other thing is that you can add more than one of this, so you could have like two kinds of enemies, and that's where I'm going to start today. So I'm going to create another enemy. Well, actually, so I don't do that. I'm just going to go here. I'm going to copy my enemy, my current enemy, and I'm going to say clone object type. I'm going to put it over here, and of course it's gigantic, so I'm going to change it. And just to be able to differentiate them, I'm going to change the colors, and I'm going to make this one, what do I know, like I don't know, purplish or something like that. Okay, so do you have two different triangles, and one is purplish. Quite likely at some point I'm going to need like a spawn or two here, so I'm just going to say clone object type. I'm going to put it over also here, and I don't know, 20 to 20. Something like that, and also just to be able to differentiate them, I'm going to put the same color, something like that. Okay, so you can see here seeker 2, spawner 2, so we have two kinds. At the very beginning, well, since I cloned the objects, I didn't recreate it, so remember, right click, clone object type. This one, the Seeker 2, also has a pathfinding, well, this one didn't have any behavior, but this one works. Still, I would have to do the same thing that I was doing before, that was to add a goal for the new enemy for Seeker 2. So I'm just going to copy paste this, copy, and well, Ctrl P, paste. And well, this is for Seeker 1, so I could say right click. This is incredibly useful whenever you're doing things like this, especially copy pasting. You can say replace object, and it's telling me like, hey, I'm talking in this action of this event of two objects. I'm talking about the Seeker and I'm talking about the goal. Which one do you want to change? I want to change the Seeker. Now, which one should be the one that goes here? It understands that I'm talking about a find path, and it's going to just show me the objects that are similar or that have, well, in this case, the same behavior. So that's it. So just doing that, I was able to say, hey, when the Seeker 2 is able, when the game starts, the Seeker 2 is also going to aim for a goal that we have here. So both are going to try to go to this little green square. Now, what else can I do? So of course I do have to do something like this too. So I'm going to copy paste again the entire event, and again I'm going to just change the objects. So I'm going to say replace object for Seeker 2, and this one replace object for Seeker 2. So this should make it work, and you see that there are two different enemies, and both of them are trying to get to the goal. Of course, the great ones, Seeker 1, they are able to reach the goal, and I already added another event that is destroying them. This one, the purple one, Seeker 2, is not doing a thing. It's like I'm not really doing anything when this happens. So I did have an event for that it was this one. And of course, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to copy paste, and I'm going to replace the object for Seeker 2, and this one, replace the object for Seeker 2. And since we are doing basically repeating what we had here, I'm going to copy paste these two other actions and replace objects. So I'm going to say replace object. First I'm going to replace the spawner for the spawner 2, and then I'm going to say I'm going to replace object, and that is the Seeker, for Seeker 2, and goes same here, replace object, the Seeker for Seeker 2. So I didn't have to rewrite all these events. So with that one, I should have also new spawner 2, new Seeker 2s that are going to be spawned in spawner 2, which makes sense. And they are going to be created every 2 seconds, and the Seeker 2 is going to be destroyed also when it reaches its goal. So it's almost like I redid everything for the two enemies, and now you have two enemies there. So why would I create two different enemies? This is something that in one of the other videos that was about a trick, I could just use one of the enemies, and I could just use different animations and things like that. So this one is just to kind of illustrate what you could do, and also to show you how you could copy paste and change easily some events. But also because you can tell that now this tower is only able to shoot at the great ones, at the great enemies, not at the purple ones, at the new ones that we just created. So that's something that we will have to fix. Quite likely, in future examples, I'm going to use only one kind of enemy, but I wanted to show you this one. And also, why would I have like two different enemies that the only difference is just the color? Well, hopefully that's not the only difference, so I'm going to say that what about the speed that we have here, max speed, instead of 200, I'm going to make this one much slower. Okay? Also, in this particular case, we're not going to do much with this purple one, with Seeker 2, but what I want to do is to have enemies that have different behaviors. So what if I just say, hey, this enemy is not going to detect obstacles that are solid. They are going to be custom, and since I'm not going to do anything with them, they're just going to go basically in a straight line. No? No. Seems that I didn't do it correctly. Okay, well, still but you can tell the idea. For example, what about these ones are just like flyers, and that they go through like, well, the obstacles, like the walls that we have here, or we just can add any other kind of behavior that we want that is special for this one, not just the speed, but I don't know, they regenerate, or they can detect when fallen enemies are around. So this could be, I don't know, necromancers that are able to heal and to resurrect some of the fallen comrades that are gray. So, well, you can do whatever you want. The thing that it's really important is that we haven't copied and modified this one here, that is telling the tower that these seekers are the enemies. So I'm just going to do exactly what we have been doing so far, and I'm going to replace the object. I'm going to replace the seeker for seeker 2. So now my tower should be able to also the gray ones the purple ones that you see, that is, this one in particular is trying to do it, because, well, it's in a better position. So that kind of works. You see? So now I have two different enemies that are completely different objects. That, again, that's not exactly how I would do it in general. I would not try to create different enemies this way if they share that like main logic, that is being enemies and moving from one point to the other. I think that's a lot of repetition, but again, this is a tutorial. I'm showing you like the things that you can do and how you should be able to do it. So this is great. Now we have two different kinds of enemies. Just so I don't forget about this, I'm just going to save this one as Tower Defense 3, and the date is 04/27, so something like that. Now what happens with this is something that is a really stupid detail, but I think it's useful not only for tower defenses but also for many games, depending on what you're trying to do. Sometimes you have in Construct 2, you can make this menu like to show or not using this, and one of the options that we have here is this one, that is the view, and you have here something that is called the grid. So imagine that in your layout you have a grid, you have like a matrix, and you're able to determine the size of that grid. You see that here is 32 by 32, and you can show it, so it's much easier to determine things. So this is not going to appear for the user, this is still going to be like this, but for you as the developer, you can use this grid to be able to align things. The other option that is really important, and it was well done, really well used in the template that comes with Construct 2, is this one that says snap to grid. So what that means is that when you're trying to move an element, especially when you're dragging it, it's going to try to snap to the grid. So if I move this, I don't know if you can tell that it's trying to get everything inside this grid. You see, I'm not able to just move it like to a random coordinate here in between. It's always going to take this into consideration. And of course, you can change the grid and make it look however you want. So this is really important, because then you can make like better what is it, like you can make better mazes. Oh, sorry about that. And you see that it, even when you're trying to resize, is going to try to make things like that. So, well, you can decide exactly however you want to. So I thought that this one was really cool. You also can do this thing of like showing collision polygons, so you can see this red border that you have here that is going to be taken into account for that. So if you remember the triangles, I actually fixed the collision polygons that you are going to use. But if you change it, you see that now the square, or the outline that we had here that was red, is going to be a square, because I just changed it. In here, how I had it originally, it was just a triangle. So this is really good when you're creating games, and hopefully that the things that you're using are not red, because you see that the outline is red. So, but well, you also can decide if you're going to use the inactive layers that you have there. So that's something else. I think this C order bar also is really good, but only useful or only available if you have a paid version, if I'm not mistaken. So I haven't really tried that to do that with a free version in quite some time, but it's really good, especially when you're talking about elements that are on the same layer, on the same layout, and the same layer, and one could be on top of the other, and then you can change them manually. So that's really good. Now I was going to show you like how to create different enemies. So that's the first one. And now what about different towers? So this one I'm going to do it more similar to what I should do with the enemies, or what I would like to do with the enemies, and that is to use the same tower that we have here, and it's just use one animation, well, different animations, I guess. So I'm going to click here, and this is the animation that we have here. That is, of course, incredibly simple, and it's the default one. So what happens if I just duplicate? You have the animations here, and you can see down here, like, let me make this a little smaller. You have here the frames. That is only one. If I actually had an animation, I could have more frames here. That's something that I have covered in other videos, but quite likely in the future I'm also going to modify this one. But what I really want to do is to say, like, I'm going to add another animation, and I'm going to call it Tower 2. Well, I'm going to use Tower 1 just to be able to have the same one, and I'm going to say duplicate, and it's Tower 2. And I don't think I duplicated this one. Yes. Oh, okay. So I created a new one. I didn't duplicate the one that existed, and that's what I really wanted. Duplicate Tower 1, and then duplicate this one to Tower 2. I usually use the same name, well, depending on what I'm doing, and I just change a number, because then it's really easy to figure out which is the name of the animation that I want to use. I already have a constant part that is the name, the tower, and then I could use a variable just to change the number. But in this case, of course, the two animations, Tower 1 and Tower 2, are the same. I was just duplicating, so I'm going to change Tower 2. And I am going to make it, well, something, what do I know, green, oh, yellow. I think we haven't used much of the terms of yellow, so let's use that one. Oh, that's a horrible one. So I'm just going to go for something like this. Okay, kind of like a canary yellow or something like that. It's quite visible. I don't know if that's a nice color, but at least it's quite differentiated from the other tower. So usually when I have elements that are quite similar in behavior, what I do is I just create a different animation. It's the same object, and I just add an instance variable. So in this case, I'm going to call it like type, and by default I'm going to make it that all of them are type 1. Okay, so what I am going to say, I think I'm going to have a little bit of a problem here when I touch this. So yes, what I wanted to do is, well, in this case I'm saying whenever I touch whatever, I'm creating a new tower. I don't think that should be okay. So let's follow a little bit example of what we had in the template of Construct 2. I am just going to create something. Well, I could use the same walls, I guess. So something like that. Okay, so these are just going to be here in between. Okay. Well, I could do that, or I could just. So I'm going to tell you what I'm trying to do. Since now I'm going to have two different kinds of towers, I should be able, let's say, to upgrade these towers. Okay, so or, well, what if I just make them, well, no, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this event. I'm going to basically, okay, two things. I'm going to make the towers draggable, so I can put them whatever I want. So they're going to be turrets, but on top of that, they are going to have the drag and drop behavior. Okay, so now I'm going to create a factory, and this is something that I actually used in my game in the template that I showed you in one of the previous videos. So I'm going to create a factory. So that's going to be a sprite, and I am just, well, since I already used this one, I'm going to call it like this, and I don't know, just to be able to differentiate them, I'm going to cross them, something like that. So this is factory 1, well, whatever, something like this, and this is one I'm going to call it 50 by 50, and this is going to be called factory. For the sake of being lazy, or well, let me see. Yeah, let's create another one, and I'm going to call it a factory 2. Well, actually, this one should be factory 2 since this is the one that is going to create the yellow towers. Okay, there is this one, so this is going to be called factory 1, and then this is one going to be factory 2. And this one also 50-50, 50-50, and I'm going to change it. I don't know the color of this one, so I'm just going to copy it, and then I can open this one and say that I'm going to color it too. So now we have factory 1 that of course has the color of the tower ones, and factory 2 of the other color, so that's fine. And what I'm going to do here is to put them here. Well, yeah, that's fine. And then instead of just creating towers whenever I touch somewhere on the screen, I'm going to say whenever I touch the factory 1, I'm going to create a tower 1 that I'm going to be able to drag. So now that's kind of cool because I can drag a tower. But you see that whenever I touch, I also can create another one that is a copy. So it's going to be like that. I think I will have to focus that. There is a trick that I use in my game to make them work. But then I'm going to do something like this, and it's going to be whenever I touch an object that is going to be factory 1, I'm going to create the object. So control C, and actually I'm going to create it a little bit above, so -50, something like that. This one I'm going to disable it, and then I'm going to completely copy this one, and I'm going to say whenever, or I'm going to replace, no, I'm sorry, replace object, whenever I touch the factory 2, I'm going to replace this one, and I'm going to create cancel the place object. I'm going to replace factory 1. I'm an idiot. Oh, it's tower. Yeah, both create towers. The only difference is that I am going to change the animation. So I'm going to say in this case the tower, the type, set value of the type that I have here, this is type 1, and in this case is type 2. Okay, and then also I'm going to change the animation of this one, since it has to be different. It should set animation for tower 2, something like that. So it's going to know that it's different because the type is different, that is the variable that we added, and it's also going to look different because we're changing the animation. So let's see. Now if I start touching somewhere else, it doesn't do anything. Here you see that it creates a new yellow tower, and here it creates a red tower. But on top of that, I can move them and place them wherever I want. Now the thing is that these two are still they are still the same tower. They just look different, and I know that underneath they are different, but I'm not doing really anything to make them look different. So what if I make, and this is quite typical in tower defenses, I make the bullets that I'm shooting with this one, I make them react in a way that they slow down, or that, well, in this case, that they freeze the one of the enemies. So that would be really cool. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look for the shoot. So I'm going to save this. Since before we just had one kind of tower, I was just spawning bullets, right? Now I can create a sub-event to ask which kind of tower are we talking about. So to create a sub-event, you just have to click here and then right-click to add a sub-event, and you have it here. In this case, usually I create blank sub-events, but what I do most of the time is just press and use the hotkey that is B. And in this case, I'm going to ask, what if the turret that we're talking about, what if the tower that we're talking about is type 1? And of course, I should do something similar, but just for type 2. I am going to, in type 1, there is not a difference, so I'm just going to move this here. That's it. And for this other one, I am going to create something similar. So give me just 1 second and I'll tell you what. So, well, I'm back. So the thing is that here I should create another bullet. So I'm going to go here. I had this bullet, and I'm going to do exactly what I did before. And this case is to clone an object type and put it here. I'm going to move it, and since so far I'm happy with this size, I'm going to change it. What I'm really going to do is to make this one completely different, and I want to make it blue to remind you of some sort of eyes or whatever. So let's see, something like that. I think this blue should be better for this, and vice versa, but well, you get the idea. Since I clone this element, it's of course going to be a bullet, but I'm going to make it a little slower, you know, so that way the second kind of tower is going to have something different. And in this case, what I'm going to do, well, I guess I could copy it. Well, I'm going to do it manually. So then the tower is going to spawn another object, but instead of bullet, that is the one that we were creating before, I'm going to use bullet 2. Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, it was in the image point 1 or 0, I don't remember. Let me see. So tower, oh, I'm sorry, this one, I had them in the origin. Oh, okay, interesting. So let me see, I can even fix that right now. Oh yeah, so I haven't fixed that one, so let me do that right away. So you see that my towers are kind of like shooting from the center. They should shoot from here, so I'm going to change that right away. And to do that, what I'm going to do is to add another, you see this option here that is origin and image points. I'm going to add another one, and that one is going to be here at the tip. Okay, so then it's going to appear like my tower is shooting from this point. That's really cool. So in this case, I'm going to say they are done from this. So, and then let me create another one, and you see that now it's beginning to shoot the blue bullets. And right now the blue bullets are not doing a thing because we haven't added that event. So let me see, where is that event? And here it is. This is for the original bullet. In this case, what we were saying is like, hey, I want the oh, okay, so this is interesting. I have two different secrets. That's exactly why I do not create different enemies I just reuse the same kind of enemy, just how I'm doing with the tower. So I do not have an event that is calculating what happens when the bullet, or initial bullet, is hitting the second kind of enemy. So I should do that. So you see, I keep finding things. So secret 2, this one would be replace object for secret 2, replace object for secret 2, something like that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to do it for 1. I guess I'm going to rewrite all this part, just make it with 1 enemy. So this is just going to be for the example that we have. So I'm going to put it here. And what I'm going to say is like, hey, I do not want to ask about bullet. I want to ask about bullet 2. That is over here. Let's ask about the seeker. And I don't want to subtract here. I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment. Yes, and it's this one. It's something that I haven't used much. Most of the time I use set time scale to pause or unpause the game, but there is this option that is set object time scale, and that is to just modify the time scale for a specific object. So in this case I'm going to do it for the seeker, and I'm going to slow it down to half. So it's going to be, and I'm not going to decrease this. So let's see if this works. I'm not entirely certain that this is going to work. So I create a new one. I still have, okay, this one was shot. You see, every single time that one of the seekers is shot, then it begins to slow down. The problem is that not all of them get shot. So you see that these ones are getting shot and they move much slower. That actually match the speed of the purple one. So let's see that I don't want to do this, but I want to do it even slower, 0.1. So they are going to go to a crawl. Oh, that was unexpected. I don't want it to. Okay, because they get shot too many times. Oh, quite interesting. So 0.4, the bullet is being destroyed. Yeah, something like that. Let's say. So you see that they are even slower than the purple ones. So that kind of works. So well, you get the idea of how to add new enemies, how that I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to save this right now here, but I'm going to completely destroy the seeker 2. For the next video I'm going to do that, and I prefer to use only 1 enemy so I don't have to copy as many elements as we want. These for every kind of bullet that we have, we should have one event, but in this case I have 2 events because we have 2 different enemies, so that's not great. So this one here, this bullet right now, the blue one, is useful because it's slowing down the enemies, so that's really good. And that's something that it would be really great to differentiate different kinds of towers. So what if there's another one that somehow creates shocking effects, electricity or something like that, or it simply just has like a more powerful damage than what we had before. So this is how you do it. And also we kind of saw a little bit on how to create different enemies that I'm going to go around it in a completely different way in the next one. This thing with the factories, that's something that I actually kind of like, but I did that just because I thought that it was useful. And this is something similar to what I have in my tower defense template, that is the cube defenders. So we already kind of cover a little bit of what I did. Next time, quite likely I'm going to cover a little bit about the animations, on how to change animations. That is a subject that is not only useful for tower defense, but for almost any kind of game. And perhaps after that I should try to cover the entire thing of waves that was asked, and after that perhaps just go back to the cube defense and just try to make it work correctly. So let's go back here, and this is my intro again. Please let me know if you like what I'm showing so far. I think the entire comment about the waves, that was brilliant. That's something that it needs to be addressed, and quite likely I'm going to do. And apart from that, well, I hope that you like what I'm showing. I hope that you give me a lot of comments, leave a lot of questions, and check my other videos, check my other tutorials, because, well, I'm having a good time talking with you guys.